Your mind may not be weak. It may have simply learned that every discomfort has an exit. A difficult task appears, and you reach for distraction. An emotion rises, and you react. A promise becomes inconvenient, and you abandon it. Repeat this long enough, and escape begins speaking with your voice. Bruce Lee trained until hesitation could no longer command his movement. Your mind needs that same discipline. These 7 rules will expose where your power has been leaking, and show you how to take it back, because what was trained into your mind can also be trained out of it. 1. Your mind is not weak. It has been trained to escape discomfort. Your mind was not born weak. It learned to escape whenever effort became uncomfortable. Each time you delayed the hard task, reached for your phone, or abandoned a promise, escape became easier and discipline became weaker. That pattern can be reversed. Stay with discomfort a little longer. Finish what you begin, and act before excuses take control. Mental strength returns when your mind discovers that discomfort is not danger, and that your decisions are commands, not suggestions. Act on it now. 2. Every distraction you obey teaches your focus to surrender. Distraction does more than steal a few minutes. It teaches your mind to abandon anything that demands patience. Each time work becomes difficult and you reach for your phone, open another screen, or search for quick entertainment, your brain learns that discomfort is a signal to escape. Soon, even simple tasks feel heavy because your attention has been trained to expect a reward every few seconds. Focus cannot grow in a mind that is constantly given permission to leave. Begin rebuilding it through small acts of refusal. When the urge to check something appears, wait 5 more minutes. Choose one task. Remove every unnecessary screen, and remain with it until the time you selected has ended. Your restless mind may complain, but restlessness is only a habit losing its authority. Every time you return to the task, you complete a repetition of discipline. You are teaching your attention that boredom is survivable, difficulty is temporary, and your command is stronger than the next distraction. Focus returns when escape is no longer rewarded. 3. Whoever controls your reaction controls your mind. A person does not need physical strength to defeat your peace. They only need to discover which words make you lose control. If criticism makes you explode, they will criticize you. If silence makes you panic, they will withdraw attention. If disrespect forces you to prove yourself, they will keep questioning your value. Every automatic reaction reveals a button, and once someone learns where that button is, they can press it whenever they want to direct your behavior. This does not mean you should become emotionless. Anger can warn you that a boundary has been crossed, and pain can reveal what matters. The danger begins when emotion becomes an immediate command. In that moment, you stop choosing your response and begin performing the reaction another person expected. They created the pressure, but you handed them the movement. A trained mind refuses to move on another person's signal. Build a pause between what happens and what you do next. When someone provokes you, notice the first physical signs, the tightening jaw, the faster breath, the heat rising through your body. Do not speak from that first wave. Relax your shoulders, breathe slowly, and ask, what result do I want after this moment is over? That question moves your mind from reaction to strategy. You may choose to answer calmly, set a boundary, leave the room, or say nothing. Silence is not surrender when it is chosen with awareness. It is proof that another person could not force you to become careless. The goal is not to win every argument. It is to leave each encounter without abandoning your character. Anyone can appear powerful while shouting, threatening, or attacking. Real control is remaining precise when anger offers you a weapon that will also cut your own hand. Practice this pause in small moments. A rude comment, an impatient message, an unfair opinion, each controlled response closes another entrance into your mind. When people can predict your emotions, they can prepare traps for them. When you learn to pause, observe, and decide, their map of you becomes useless. Your reaction belongs to you. Protect it, because the person who cannot command your response cannot command your mind. 4. Every promise you break to yourself makes weakness stronger. The most damaging promises are often not the ones other people break. They are the ones you quietly break to yourself. You decide to wake early, but press the alarm again. You promise to finish the work, but stop when it becomes uncomfortable. You say this will be the last time you return to a harmful habit. Yet the moment pressure appears, your decision disappears. Nobody may witness these small betrayals, but your mind records every one. After enough broken promises, your mind stops believing your instructions. When you announce a new goal, an older voice answers, You have said this before. That voice is not born from a lack of talent, it is built from evidence. Your actions have repeatedly taught your mind that comfort has more authority than your word. Motivation may excite you for an hour, but confidence cannot be created with emotion. Confidence requires proof. Self-trust is built like skill, through accurate repetition. Bruce Lee did not master movement by making enormous promises about the fighter he would become. He practiced individual movements until they could be trusted under pressure. Treat your word the same way. Stop making dramatic commitments that collapse within 3 days. Choose a promise small enough to keep and important enough to matter. Work without your phone for 20 minutes. Exercise for 10. Read 5 pages. Finish the task you have postponed before beginning something new. Then do exactly what you said. The size of the promise matters less than the honesty of its completion. A small promise kept strengthens you more than an ambitious plan abandoned. Each completed action sends a message inward. My decisions have weight. Once your mind begins trusting that message, discipline requires less argument. You no longer need to manufacture the perfect mood, because your identity has started moving in the direction of your word. Do not turn one failure into permission for complete collapse. Missing one day is an error. Using that error to abandon the practice is a decision. Weakness grows when it converts a small mistake into a permanent excuse. If you fail in the morning, return in the afternoon. If you lose one round, do not surrender the fight. Recovery speed matters more than perfect performance, because discipline is not proven by never falling. It is proven by refusing to remain down. The inconvenient days are the real training. Keeping your promise when you feel motivated only proves that motivation was present. Keeping it when you are tired, bored, disappointed, or unseen proves that you are becoming dependable to yourself. Do not wait until you feel mentally strong before behaving with strength. Let the behavior build the feeling. Make fewer promises, but protect each one as if your character depends on it, because eventually it does. Tonight, choose one promise for tomorrow. Make it clear, measurable, and impossible to misunderstand. When the moment arrives, do not negotiate with the version of you that wants immediate comfort. Complete the action and let the result speak. One kept promise will not rebuild your entire mind, but it will place the first stone. Keep laying those stones, and weakness will lose the ground on which it has been standing. 5. A rigid mind breaks. Learn to move like water. A rigid mind often looks strong because it refuses to bend, reconsider, or change direction. Yet that kind of strength is fragile. It survives only while life follows the expected plan. The moment a door closes, a person leaves, an opportunity fails, or reality produces an answer it did not want, the rigid mind breaks against what it cannot control. It mistakes one blocked path for the end of the journey because it tied the entire purpose to a single form. Bruce Lee's philosophy of water offers a different kind of power. Water does not argue with the shape of the container, but it does not lose its nature inside it. It can move around an obstacle, pass through a narrow opening, remain still when stillness is required, and strike with enormous force when movement becomes possible. Its flexibility is not weakness. Flexibility is how its power survives changing conditions. Your mind needs that ability. You may have a goal, but the first method may fail. You may trust someone, but new behavior may reveal that your trust was misplaced. You may build an identity around a job, relationship, plan, or belief, only to discover that life is asking you to continue without it. If you demand that the future arrive in one exact shape, every change will feel like destruction. You will waste energy fighting reality, instead of using reality. Adaptability begins when you separate your destination from your route. The destination may still matter, even when the road must change. If one strategy fails, study the failure and build another. If your schedule collapses, do not abandon the whole day. Reduce the task and protect the essential action. If someone refuses to understand you, stop spending your strength trying to control their interpretation. Adjust your response without surrendering your standards. A flexible method can serve an unchanging principle. Many people remain trapped because changing direction feels like admitting defeat. Their ego would rather continue losing with the original plan than improve through a different one. They defend habits that no longer work, repeat arguments that never create understanding, and remain loyal to an identity that cannot carry their future. They are not protecting strength. They are protecting familiarity. The mind often chooses a familiar prison over an unfamiliar exit, because at least the prison can be predicted. To move like water, you must be willing to release the form without abandoning the purpose. Ask yourself 3 questions when resistance appears. What am I actually trying to achieve? Which part of my approach is failing? What can change without violating what I value? These questions prevent emotion from turning a temporary obstacle into a permanent conclusion. They return you to observation, and observation is more useful than wounded pride. Practice this in ordinary situations. When a plan changes, notice how quickly irritation appears. Before complaining, identify the next useful move. When a task becomes more difficult than expected, change the method before questioning your ability. When an old routine stops producing results, redesign it instead of performing it mechanically. When life removes something you depended on, allow yourself to feel the loss, but do not build a permanent home inside the absence. Grief deserves space, not ownership of your entire future. The mind becomes rigid when it worships certainty. It wants guarantees before movement, proof before courage, and complete control before peace. Life offers none of these consistently. Mental strength is therefore not knowing exactly what will happen. It is knowing that you can meet what happens without losing yourself. You may not control the weather, but you can change the sail. You may not control the opponent's movement, but you can stop giving them the response they prepared to defeat. Do not confuse adaptability with constantly changing your goals, because work becomes uncomfortable. Water moves around a wall, but it continues moving. Escaping every difficulty is avoidance, not flexibility. The question is whether the method is truly failing, or whether your patience is simply being tested. Sometimes wisdom changes direction. Sometimes wisdom stays long enough for resistance to break. A trained mind learns the difference by looking at evidence, instead of obeying mood. Choose one area of your life where you have been pushing against an immovable condition. Stop asking how to force reality back into the shape you expected. Ask what remains possible now. Perhaps the answer is a smaller step, a different skill, a new boundary, a longer timeline, or the courage to release a path that has already ended. Movement returns when your identity is no longer chained to one outcome. A rigid mind says, "Life must obey my plan before I can continue." A mind like water says, "I will study the shape of this moment and find the movement it permits." Keep your direction, protect your principles, and loosen your attachment to a single route. When you can change your form without losing your force, obstacles stop deciding whether you move. They only decide how you move next. 6. Stop turning your worst days into your permanent identity. One terrible day can become a false biography if you repeat it often enough. You lose control once and begin calling yourself unstable. You fail at something important and decide you are a failure. You spend a season exhausted, unfocused, or afraid, then carry those temporary conditions forward as permanent descriptions of who you are. The event ended, but the name you gave yourself keeps extending its life. Your mind listens carefully to the language you use after pain. When you say, "I made a weak decision," you describe an action that can be corrected. When you say, "I am weak," you turn one action into an identity that must now be defended. The first sentence leaves room for movement. The second closes the door, because people unconsciously behave in ways that protect the person they believe themselves to be. If you call yourself lazy, every unfinished task becomes evidence. When you complete something difficult, you dismiss it as an exception. The label begins selecting which parts of your life you are allowed to notice. This is how a bad week becomes a bad year. The problem is no longer only the mistake, it is the identity built around the mistake. You stop entering opportunities because people like me never succeed. You avoid discipline because I never stay consistent. You accept disrespect because I always choose the wrong people. A sentence spoken during pain becomes an instruction for the future, and your behavior keeps producing proof for a verdict that was never fair. Bruce Lee's approach to growth was based on honest self-expression, constant refinement, and the removal of what no longer served the person. That requires you to see yourself clearly without becoming imprisoned by what you see. Honest observation says, "This habit is damaging me." Self-condemnation says, "This habit is me." One creates responsibility, the other creates paralysis. You can confront your weakness without giving it your name. Separate three things that pain tries to combine: what happened, what you did, and who you are. What happened may have been unfair. What you did may have been unwise. Neither statement is a complete definition of you. You may need to apologize, repair damage, learn a skill, or accept a consequence. But responsibility does not require permanent self-hatred. Punishing yourself forever does not improve the past. It only gives the past control over more of your future. Begin changing the language. Replace "I cannot focus" with "I have trained distraction," And now I am training attention. Replace "I always quit" with "I have quit before, but today I will complete one small task." Replace "I am broken" with "I am carrying damage that can be repaired." These are not empty positive statements. They do not deny what happened. They place the problem in the correct location, inside a pattern that can be changed, not inside an identity that cannot. Your mind will not accept a new identity simply because you repeat attractive words in a mirror. It needs evidence. If you want to see yourself as disciplined, keep one difficult promise. If you want to see yourself as calm, control one reaction that once controlled you. If you want to believe you can focus, complete one uninterrupted period of work. Do not demand that your mind trust a speech. Give it an experience it cannot argue with. Keep an evidence record for 30 days. Each night, write one sentence describing a moment when you acted differently from the old identity. It may be small. "I wanted to escape, but I stayed for 10 more minutes. I felt anger, but I chose my words. I missed the morning, but I returned in the afternoon." These moments are not insignificant. They are votes cast against the old story. A new identity is not announced once. It is accumulated through repeated proof. Expect resistance when you change. The old identity has familiarity on its side. Your mind knows its excuses, its limits, and its predictable endings. A stronger identity feels unnatural at first because you have not lived inside it long enough. Do not mistake unfamiliarity for dishonesty. The first disciplined action may feel like acting, but repetition turns action into character. Every mastered skill once felt foreign to the person who now performs it naturally. A relapse does not erase your progress unless you use it to resurrect the old identity. You may lose focus again. You may react badly, break a promise, or return to a habit you thought you had defeated. Correct the action without reopening the entire case against yourself. Ask what triggered the failure, repair what can be repaired, and return quickly. The old identity becomes powerful when one mistake is allowed to collect every previous mistake and present them together as proof that change was impossible. Your worst days should become teachers, not landlords. They can show you where your discipline was weak, where your boundaries failed, or where your preparation was missing. But they do not deserve permanent ownership of your name. Take the lesson and refuse the sentence. You are responsible for what you repeatedly choose now, not condemned to endlessly reproduce what you chose when you knew less, carried more pain, or had not yet trained your mind. Look at the identity you have been repeating. Ask whether it describes your entire life, or only the most painful evidence. Then choose one action today that the old version of you would normally avoid. Complete it without ceremony. Tomorrow, provide another piece of evidence. Your mind will slowly stop asking whether change is possible because it will be forced to confront the proof. A bad day is an event. A bad habit is a pattern. Neither must become your permanent identity. Stop introducing yourself through the chapter in which you had the least control. You are still writing the chapters that will make that old description impossible to believe. 7. Information cannot rebuild a mind that refuses to act. Information can create the sensation of progress without requiring the discomfort of change. You watch another video, save another lesson, underline another powerful sentence, and feel your mind becoming clearer. For a few minutes, you can see the person you could become. Then the video ends, the notebook closes, and your behavior returns to its old position. The idea moved through your mind, but it never entered your life. This is one of the most convincing forms of mental weakness because it can disguise itself as growth. You are not wasting time in an obvious way, you are learning. Yet learning becomes another escape when it repeatedly replaces the action it was supposed to produce. The mind receives the emotional reward of discovery without paying the physical price of discipline. It feels changed because it understands the solution, while the habit creating the problem remains untouched. Bruce Lee's philosophy was never built for passive admiration. A technique understood intellectually but never tested through movement cannot be trusted. The body must perform it, pressure must challenge it, mistakes must expose it, and repetition must refine it. Mental principles work the same way. You do not possess a lesson because you can repeat it. You possess it when the lesson appears in your behavior at the exact moment the old habit tries to return. If you say you have learned patience, the proof arrives when progress is slow. If you say you have learned emotional control, the proof arrives when someone provokes you. If you say you have learned discipline, the proof arrives when motivation is absent. Life does not test whether you remember the words, it tests whether the words have acquired muscle. Stop measuring growth by how inspired you feel after hearing an idea. Inspiration is a spark, not evidence. Measure growth by what becomes different after the spark disappears. Did you remove the distraction? Did you complete the work? Did you control the response? Did you keep the promise? Did you return after failure? If nothing changes outside your thoughts, the lesson has not yet been learned. It has only been visited. The mind often asks for more information, because more information postpones the risk of beginning. Another plan feels safer than the first imperfect attempt. Another method protects you from discovering your current level. Another hour of preparation delays the moment when reality may show you that you are not yet as capable as you hoped. But that exposure is not humiliation. It is the beginning of accurate training. You cannot strengthen what you refuse to test. Use a simple rule. Every useful idea must produce one visible action within 24 hours. If you learn about focus, schedule one protected period without your phone. If you learn about boundaries, write the sentence you need to say and use it when necessary. If you learn about fitness, complete one session before researching a better program. If you learn about courage, approach one conversation you have been avoiding. The action may be small, but it must exist in the physical world. Otherwise, the idea remains entertainment, wearing the clothes of wisdom. Do not attempt to apply 7 lessons at once. That creates a new form of overwhelm and gives you another reason to quit. Choose the lesson connected to the mistake that costs you the most. Convert it into a behavior so clear that you cannot pretend to have completed it. I will become focused is not an action. I will work from 9 until 9:30 with my phone in another room is an action. I will become calm is not an action. When I feel provoked, I will wait 60 seconds before answering is an action. Precision removes the hiding places where intention usually disappears. Action will expose weaknesses that information kept hidden. You may discover that your plan was unrealistic. Your attention is more damaged than you believed, or your emotional trigger is deeper than you admitted. Do not retreat into more advice simply because the first attempt felt ugly. The failure has given you information that observation alone could never provide. Study where you broke, adjust the method, and enter again. A mistake made during action is more valuable than a perfect plan that never met reality. There is also a difference between movement and meaningful action. Staying busy can become another escape. You answer minor messages, reorganize your notes, adjust your schedule, and complete easy tasks while avoiding the one action that could change the result. Busyness protects you from guilt because it creates exhaustion. But exhaustion is not proof that you moved forward. Ask which action carries the greatest resistance and the greatest consequence. That is often where your real work is waiting. Begin before your mind grants permission. Readiness is frequently a reward produced by movement, not a condition required before it. The first minutes may feel clumsy, heavy, or uncertain. Continue long enough for the body to join the decision. Once motion begins, the mind has new evidence. It sees that discomfort did not destroy you, uncertainty did not stop you, and the task became clearer only after you entered it. Repeat the action until it requires less debate. One controlled reaction is valuable, but a new mind is not built from one performance. One focused session opens the door, but repeated sessions change the structure. Your goal is to reduce the distance between decision and movement. When you decide to begin, begin. When you notice escape, return. When you fail, correct. Repetition makes the right response easier to access under pressure. At the end of each day, ask one question. What did I practice today? Not what did I watch, save, understand, or plan. What did I practice? Your answer reveals what kind of mind you are building. If you practiced escape, escape will become faster. If you practiced reaction, emotion will reach your mouth before judgment. If you practiced returning, focus will become easier to recover. Every day is training, even when you did not consciously choose the lesson. Now take the 7 rules from this video and refuse to let them become 7 more ideas stored inside a crowded mind. Identify the rule that made you uncomfortable. Discomfort often points toward the place where your excuses are best protected. Write one physical action beneath that rule. Decide when it will happen, and remove the nearest obstacle before this video ends. Give the lesson somewhere to live outside your thoughts. Your mind is not rebuilt when you agree with powerful words. It is rebuilt when your hands, schedule, reactions, and decisions begin obeying them. Information can show you the weapon, but only practice teaches you how to use it. Information can reveal the path, but only your feet can remove the distance. Information can introduce you to a stronger life, but action is the price of entering it. Do not leave this final lesson feeling merely motivated. Leave with a command. Choose it. define it, and complete it before comfort writes another excuse. The mind you want will not arrive because you learned enough about strength. It will appear when your repeated actions make weakness too unfamiliar to remain your identity. At the beginning, you may have believed weakness was something you were. Now you can see that it was something repeatedly practiced. Every distraction you obeyed trained escape. Every uncontrolled reaction surrendered authority. Every broken promise taught your mind that comfort could overrule your command. But training works in both directions. Every time you remain when discomfort tells you to leave, focus returns. Every time you pause before reacting, power returns. Every time you keep your word without needing motivation, self-trust returns. You are not waiting for a stronger mind to appear. You are constructing one decision by decision. Do not carry these 7 rules into tomorrow as 7 more memories. Choose the one that made you most uncomfortable, because that is probably where weakness has been hiding behind its strongest excuse. Turn that rule into one action and complete it before the day ends. Your mind will be watching, not to hear another promise, but to see whether your behavior finally supports your words. You do not need a different mind. You need to stop teaching the one you have to escape. Give it a command. Remain when discomfort arrives. Finish what you begin. Move before excuses gather around the decision. A weak mind waits for permission from feelings. A rebuilt mind receives a direction and moves.